It's a new year, a time many persons sit down to want to have plans for their life, get to make new year resolutions, and get to tell themselves the things they want to do and the things they don't want to do, and the things ordinarily that shouldn't get to happen to them. And these are all plausible aspirations and desires many persons get to have for themselves. Many persons from different countries get to, look at the crossover into a new season despite the different time zones we have, and they get to celebrate this, they get to appreciate how this gets to affect their life one way or the other, and they have this sense of the end of something and the beginning of something different. But just a little recap: last year Trump won the elections in the United States, a thing many persons are aggrieved, a thing many persons find chilling. The same thing also happened in a place like Ghana. They re-elected their former president, and he's to serve yet another term. And different places have come to experience different levels of surge and different levels of hostility and vulnerability and different levels of drought, thirst, hunger, starvation, dehydration, and the world still continues nonetheless. But at the start of a year like us, at the beginning of a period like us, 2025, what should we be hoping for? A person that comes to mind here is G.K. Chesterton. He talked about the idea of we not really having a new year, but really coming to have a new soul. We coming to really look at ourselves and see how we can ordinarily get to do things and ordinarily come to improve on our life, as opposed to just almost getting rid of ourselves and getting rid of our personality, entirely desiring to become new all of a sudden. And like him, also with me, I get to reflect on my personal life and look at the things that ordinarily require renewing, things that ordinarily require rebuilding and recalibrations. And one of such things would definitely be a renewal of my levels of hope for a better world, my renewal of the desire and the plausibility that the world can actually come to know peace. We've been having conversations about feudalism, we've been talking about techno feudalism and the different rise of serfs here and there, and the different ways in which history is repeating itself and the different problems we're having in our world, be it from the current conflicts between Russia and Ukraine, or that between Israel and Palestine, or Syria, or Turkey, or Yemen, or Sudan, or Congo, and the different warring zones in our world. We get to see that, we have to come to one way or the other have hope and have faith that things ordinarily can get better. And I align myself with someone like James Bowen, who get to ask the question: if we cannot talk about hope, what do we tell our children? That the world is not going to get better? I don't think that is the case. I think the world can get better, but it requires the collective effort of people, either from geopolitical positionings or regional positionings, or on a global scale, to actually get to look at the world and get to look at how life ordinarily should be and how life ordinarily shouldn't be. And just like we all have this desire in us to start the new year afresh and to get to drop a whole lot of old things, so also we can come together and clamor for peace and clamor for joy and clamor for happiness on a large scale. Just like when we go out for fireworks, and just like when we stand outside waiting and ticking our clock, depending on the time zone we get to find ourselves, and we hoping collectively saying Happy New Year to as many persons as we can ordinarily do, so as many persons did yesterday, and as we have almost always been doing all year round throughout the centuries that have come to become our history. We also can tap into that particular current, the current of migration and emigration, and then look at what cosmopolitanism can get to do for us. We should also look at the ways in which we can stop exploiting people, the ways we can come together to get to collaborate and get to really come to understand what humanity truly desires of us, what the universe indeed wants us to do, and how we can ordinarily come to be stable with the with the space that has been given to us and with the universe as a whole, and how to go about the various levels of exploration to the greater good of our time and existence down here. Be that as it may, we cannot also overlook the fact that we cannot continue like this. We cannot continue with the wars we get to fight. And I see hope in a whole lot of persons. I see hope in a whole lot of things and in a whole lot of events and activities that took place last year. And I look into the current situation we find ourselves into the future as someone who has been schooled in the Augustinian school of thought. I can only but anticipate the future while in the present and keeping an eye with a sense of remembrance of the past and only hoping that the future would be better, that a thing like the Russian invasion of Ukraine would come to cease and the world ordinarily come to admit that there have never been peace gotten from war, that Israel would ordinarily come to recognize the dignity and the humanity of the people being killed daily in Palestine, and that we ordinarily would come to look towards the global south and see a place like Sudan for what it really is, and see a place like Congo for the atrocities that have been done down there and how to ordinarily come about solving such problems, and looking at the different countries that are currently being exploited one way or the other by the West and by the so-called war powers for their own good, as opposed to the greater good of the world, and come to look at other ways and other means to ordinarily come to forge peace, come to forge a new front that ordinarily will benefit everybody. And as a Nigerian who is in no short memory of the disasters that can come from bad governance and from corruption and from exploitation and from colonialism and from neo-colonialism, I make due to say that Africans, Nigerians also, and as well as global citizens, must come together to start looking at life from perspective that ordinarily can bring us together, that can bring peace. Else we crumble together, else we die in this war, else we kill ourselves thinking we ordinarily can survive that way. I've never seen any civilization, just like Uyuduran will get to say, that made progress except it looked at its own flaws and looked at its own weakness and tried to get better as opposed to destroying its own self from within. A thing we have done, a thing we have constantly done to ourselves, and we see yet another civilization crumbling. We see the West having its own problems, and we see the restrictions placed upon so-called developing countries and underdeveloped countries, and how many war powers and think tanks get to look the other side as opposed to what ordinarily can be done to get to better the lives of the people within such environment. And so you ask me, what is my desire for this year? Nothing else than to fall back to G.K. Chesterton, we having a sense of wonder. We coming to have this sense of wonderment within our souls. What have I been trying to say? G.K. Chesterton will remind us that the world would never be starved for want of wonders, but from want of wonder, I can only but imagine how we can ordinarily build a sense of wonderment within ourselves and get to regenerate ourselves and get to look at the positives and get to also look at the limited time we ordinarily get to have here, be it from the likes of Putin to the likes of Benjamin down there in Israel to the likes of Yanis in Greece, in the Greek world, and Dominic Taczynski in the Polish realms of things, or Boris Johnson, or Kemi Badnock, and the different persons that at the moment tend to wield power here and there. Olaf in Germany has lost the majority vote, and we are looking at an election in the near future, and different things are playing out, and the world is currently moving and changing positions. But we hope, just like Pope Pius during the world wars of last century predicted, that post-war man will be much more unrecognizable compared to the post-war map of Europe. We pray we don't really get to be so unrecognizable when we must have finished our display of insanity down here, and when we must have finished our levels of pride and how we get to go about things and how we get to pride ourselves in the different things we do, as opposed to how we ordinarily should get to look at life. How should we look at life? As a precious gift given to all, not under particular circumstances, not for certain reasons alone. Life given to everybody. Life given to me, given to you, given to all persons without condition, given to all persons freely, and to be allowed to freely blossom, to be allowed to freely live well in the 21st century. I tell you, as I want to believe you already know, there's enough already in the world. There have never been a time when we've had the level of abundance of food and security of water and high quality of shelter and ways of coming to understand ourselves than we currently have in the 21st century. But greed will not allow us. Greed will not allow us do what we ordinarily are supposed to do. And so we continue to fall down and kill ourselves slowly and sometimes fast also. And in all of this, what can I say? I can only hope and pray that the world and this year be a better one for us. I am Biringkpa bin Mecca, the mendicant, your brother, strolling this world with you. Happy New Year and see you next time.